Where am I? Who am I? Okay. Today, the title for today is an odd one. I didn't get it to Crystal, or we would have had a... Oh, and again, thank you, Crystal Trimble. The PowerPoint slides, it's really awesome. And it's making a difference. And this is only our third week doing it. So we have learning curves, and we're doing stuff, and we're adding, and I'm so thrilled. And I didn't get the title to her because it would help if you saw it. Today's talk is entitled The Pides of March. So it's spelled P-I and then Ides of March, because yesterday I got to have pie. Big pie, and it was gluten-free, and it was the pie day of the century. It wasn't just Pie Day. How many know about this? This is like awesome. Okay, so on March 14th, 2015 at 9:26 a.m. and 53 seconds, you had to have that part. That calculation, 314201592 is the mathematical number of pi. So this only happens once a lifetime, and the number pi is a mathematical constant, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, commonly approximated at 3.14159. I love this part. It's an irrational number. I thought, yeah. I think most numbers are irrational, but I'm trying to change that. But I was thrilled that pi day is an irrational number, and it cannot be expressed as a common fraction, and its decimal representation famously never ends and never repeats. That's kind of cosmic, frankly. So all the math nerds were celebrating huge. It was you think St. Patrick's Day is a big day. They only got to do this once in a century in their lifetime. I get to do it every year. So they had pie days and all of that, and I thought, pie, it's great. And gluten-free calorie, someone sent me on my Facebook, it's only 3.14 calories for every slice of pie. It was like, yes, we like that too. So I was all energized by Pie Day and the idea that today, technically today, is the Ides of March. How many of you are familiar with that? Aha! Shakespeare has influenced our lives as well. And it is the famous, well, it has a lot more to do, I won't get too historical, it has a lot more to do with the Roman calendar of that year and why it's doing that. It's the middle of the cycle that they had, because they didn't start in January, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know that. What you know is that in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, this was the day that Brutus and Cassius created something and said goodbye to Julius Caesar in not a very nice way. So it was beware the Ides of March. And just because we believe in cause and effect and truth and consequences, you may need to know that both Brutus and Cassius got their comeuppance later on, even though they changed the cycle of Roman government by the assassination of Julius Caesar. So that's why it's the Pides of March. All right. So what? I amused myself. It was, it's just, you sit there and you think, what are you going to talk about? And it was very difficult for me last night to want to create a talk, not because I could talk forever on Greg Lavoie's work and callings and passion and purpose, but because there was this fun day, Pie Day, and then, as you have heard, we had this extraordinary concert on Friday night. Sandy mentioned it in meditation that when she walked in, she could still feel the vibrational energy here. And I know we have a few choir members and beloved Alice still here. And I see our barkeeps are here. Yeah. You wouldn't be Irish behind the bar now, would you? And so would everybody who volunteered and helped, and Hazel, everybody, please stand. Can we love you? Gail, Crystal, Don, all of you, Polly, all of you. All the choir, Alice, and of course, Linda. So thank you for that. We're still tallying up the money, but it was a very successful event, not only financially as a fundraiser, but more so as a community with the idea of doing this. And so I'll let you guys, nudge Linda and Alice about wanting to do it again. So that's the vibration. So, it may be a while, but I saw Al Rate came, Al Ray, they're laughing because Al Ray, Quiet Al, this wonderful man, he was on Friday night. I have a feeling he's going to be the one leading the campaign to have the next choir concert. So thank you for all that effort and beautiful music. And so that's what I meant. It was really hard to want to work last night because we had this choir concert Friday night, and then yesterday was Pi Day and all kinds of other things. And then I've been gearing up all week for that green holiday. And I thought, I would really much rather read to you Irish poetry and talk about fun things than spirit, and yet I am called, get the pun, to move us forward. You do all know why we wear green and stuff this week, and you know that if you were traditionally Christian, that there is that during Lenten holiday that the ban on drinking is lifted on St. Patrick's Day, which seems a little contrary to the point, but it does. But I want to be spiritual about that. Besides the fun and the festivities of green, which is the most perfect color in the universe because it's the color of grass, it's the color of money, it's the color of your heart chakra and healing, and it just does all that. In addition to that, St. Patrick, without going into too much history again, he taught by using the clover, the shamrock. The shamrock, because the shamrock has the three, which is the Trinity, which evolves into most of the spiritual or religious teachings. So he used the shamrock as his teaching to evangelize the pagan Christians into understanding more. So see, there is a spiritual slant to my greenness. But I do want to read something, and I'll read several quotes today from another one of my favorite authors, who is John O'Donohue. Are you familiar with the book Anam Cara? Oh, well, now we have to have that book. Well, it'll probably only call to you mystical Irish types, but John writes, all you can ever achieve is a sense of your soul. You gain little glimpses of its light, colors, and contours. You feel the inspiration of its possibilities and the wonder of its mysteries. And I love that quote because of two things. One, it really speaks and sings to the Irish soul, and Anam Cara means soul friend in Gaelic. And it talks about calling. When you're talking about the inspiration of its possibilities and the wonders of its mysteries, to me, that's about the calling. And a lot of the Irish lore is attributed to that mystical, poetic, kind of moory, fog-like feeling of, that mists of what the Irish do with their poetry and their music, their lullabies and their poems. So it's about that passion and that calling. And I do think that they're known for their idea of mystery. And then Sean O'Casey, a famous Irish playwright, writes, all the world's a stage and most of us are desperately under-rehearsed. Now, I had not heard that quote, and I did a Sean O'Casey play, and I thought, that fits too, because if all the world's a stage, and it is, since we're talking Shakespeare today. See, I would have loved to have just done Shakespeare and Irish poetry today. If it is all the world's a stage, and the men and women merely its players, but Sean O'Casey says we're desperately under-rehearsed. And the reason why I think that's so is for those of us who don't listen to our calling. You see how I brought it all back? I may have fun, I may go out there, but it comes back to the idea of calling. Greg Lavoie's amazing work, and it's about finding your authentic life, finding and knowing what you're going to do. And as Don said, he's coming next month. We're so blessed that he's going to come and do a lecture about the new book, but the new book includes the depth of what this is, the passion and purpose and why we're here. And with the exception of the fact that I got distracted by the Celtic music this morning, I think I would have started out by saying, how may I call you today? Because in some ways, it's the same thing as my signature phrase, how may I love you today? How may I call you today is to bring your attention to how may I, capital I, not little o Duchess I, but the I that is within, the I that I am, calling you through you as you. So that there's something about that call that you hear this week, this month. That's what we're doing. If there is anything that I can do to, tickle the ivories or gently stroke the chimes in your consciousness and soul by which you hear your call, then my work is blessed. I'm grateful, because that's really all this is. No matter who stands up here, actually, whether it's even Mark who is singing, or some minister or practitioner who is praying or speaking or doing that, it's really about putting words out there, which are the kind of crumbs that, who is that little, Hansel and Gretel crumbs. When we're up here, our words, our music, our prayers are Hansel and Gretel crumbs on the path by which you can find your way onto your calling. And in Sandy's meditation, for those of you who missed it, she quoted William Martin, and I'm paraphrasing the quote because I don't have it, but it was, if you're talking about your path, then you're not on it. Is that correct? And I thought, yes, if you're talking about, well, someday I'm going to, and I'd like to be, and my purpose, and if you're talking about it, you're probably not walking it. Which means you may not be answering the call from Spirit within you about what is your passion and your purpose. And I think being Irish is the way to get there. So for you get, I'm going to sanction you all to be Irish for the next few days so that you can feel that, because even if, how many of you are Irish? Yay! Oh, yes, you are. You're all Irish. Because you have that passion and call in your soul. We just have congregated in a green emerald isle, and there's a bunch of us who do it more often. But it's all within you. And then there's a local lady who has something that's going on right now, and I never get to go. I think she pronounced it Jasiah Cornwise. Do you all know her? Well, I know Renee does. Am I saying her name right, Renee? Jasiah. Well, she does the Soul Shake Sunday, and it's this kind of a dance-free thing over at Dorothy Johnson, and I never get to go because, oh well, I'm here. It's a dance in church, which works for me, which I kind of get to do at the top of the service. Anyway, she and I were connecting on Facebook and email about something, and she wrote this beautiful poem that I think is about callings, and I love the idea of reading poetry from our locals. She writes, "We are really held and guided by life. All experiences we are having are gifts from the divine dance of possibility on this plane. And who is it who questions where you were born, who your parents were, what you are to do here, who you are to love? Life is guiding. Life itself is holding. Your unique footprint and handprint with its own shining constitution, singularly profound, yet a rainbow slice of one possible shared evolution. You are living stardust composed of the same matter, spread itself out again and again to reach a collective Milky Way of receptivity, a collective galaxy of giving. May we all trust the life we are walking. Clean out the cobwebs so you can see daylight. Dust off the mirrors so you can distinguish the darkness from unconsciousness, to embrace the mystery of the night sky. Face your voice and start talking. Open tenderly the blinders, shut from fear and belief. Please, your life is knocking. Heed the call. Love it up. You are truly being embraced by life itself." Beautiful poem. Couldn't have come at a better week, talking about callings, talking about poetry and dance and St. Patrick's Day. And so I wrote her, and I had her permission. I asked if I may read that today, and I told them, and she said she was thrilled. So I have that, and I can send that to you, but that is her work, and it's still. So she's talking about that same face your voice and start talking. Open tenderly the blinders shut from fear and belief. Please, your life is knocking. Heed the call. Love it up. You are truly being embraced by life itself. Same thing Mr. Lavoie is talking about. He does it in a few more pages than she did, with a lot more stories and practices and exercises that you can do it, but it's about that call. As each one of us listens to the call, sometimes it comes from one of us privileged up here. We may say something and there's a part of you that goes, "Oh, that's it. I get it. I hear it." Most of the time, it comes from the stillness, which is one of the reasons we practice the contemplation in the morning. We teach you how to meditate and contemplate so that you may do it more often than just on a Sunday morning together, to be able to still the cacophony of the universe around us, and boy, there's plenty of that, and begin to listen, become still and whole, and hear. So that it's about that passion saying unto you, whatever it is that it needs to. I mentioned last week that calling, sometimes people think about your calling, they think, well, that's something that someone between the ages of 18 and 30 needs to pay attention to. Because you're coming out of high school, moving into college or graduate school, trying to find your life's work, and so you have a calling. Or calling is attached usually only to those people with, ecumenical collars and robes and titles. And it's not. Our calling is unique, significant, and individualized for each of us, and no matter where we are in that age range, from high school graduation to retirement and beyond, wherever we are, we have a calling. And I believe, and so I'm encouraging, I'm saying, because I'm doing it for me, I believe we need to pay attention to that. I believe that when we don't, we court disaster. Emotional, physical disaster. And Mr. Lavoie, who loves words maybe as much as I do, but loves words, said that the Latin root for disaster is against one's stars. Yeah, you got it. I don't have to explain that one, Lucy. Yeah. So we are courting disaster when we are going against our stars, and by that I mean our plan, the rhythm, the calling that each of us have that is so unique to each of us, that if we are not listening, if we are not walking the path, then we are courting disaster of one way or the other. So, some of us may think, well, why is it so hard to do this? And why aren't my treatments and my prayers manifesting and demonstrating what we want? Or why is this stupid, hard, difficult thing happening to me? Well, perhaps that's the disaster. It doesn't necessarily mean catastrophic disaster. We don't do that. We don't need to. But if we're courting little disasters, those to me add up and are as cumulative and unfun as the bigger ones. And I no longer want to court disaster by not following the stars. And again, I'm not talking stars as your astrology. I am talking about the stars and messengers and light of your path. Being able to follow that and know what your authentic life is. I have a quote on our Facebook page this week, which reflected my story last week about Ray Bradbury and passion. And this week's quote on the Facebook page is from Carl Jung. And it says, "What did you do as a child that made the hours pass like minutes? Therein lies the key to your earthly purpose." So wouldn't it be lovely? In fact, we'll do it right now. Thank you. Okay. Let's get still for a moment and close our beautiful little eyes. And breathe and remember, and as you're breathing and getting centered, know that you are in a safe space. That each one of us are walking through this journey as well as this exercise together. So you're allowed to open up mind, heart, and back files. So I'd love for you to breathe, and first you need to be present in your body in this chair, mindful, awake, and alert. Breathe in, and as you exhale, grant permission to your higher self to move into that sacred space of knowing and listening. Because we're putting out a siren call today to hear our own calls. So breathe in again, and now I'd love you to take you back. You don't even have to effort to make this happen. Just let your mind land upon a time or a place, a joyous time and place as a child, and the things that you love to do. You might have been 6, you might have been 2, but just let your mind take you back to a childhood memory of joy. Of joy. It's not an effort. And if you feel like no image is coming to you right now, you don't feel anything right now, just hang out in the space. There's enough of us who are, and it will reveal it. You need to make it safe and give permission. And for those who have landed on an image or a remembrance of a day, an activity of joy, see if you can step back and witness it. You don't have to be in it. And witness, what are you doing? Look around you. What are the surroundings? Is it day or night? Any particular smells associated with this? For example, maybe the sweetest thing that you landed on was baking cookies with your grandmother in the kitchen, and you can smell the cinnamon. And with that question, is there anyone else in this image with you from this experience, this memory? Any people, any animals? You're witnessing it. You don't have to live it. Because what I really want you to do is to witness it. Put it on the screen of your mind or put it on a table in front of you, to walk around it, almost like a holographic image, to look at it and see little you involved in something joyous, effortless, easy, fun. And with that awareness, as you continue to witness this, as I said this week in the magazine circle, put on your white lab coat and your glasses and your pen protector pocket and walk around this image or this memory. Witness it on the screen of your mind and see what you can identify. What about that memory was it that brought you joy, that even possibly today is making you smile as you think of it? And if it's not an immediate response, if you don't say, oh, I was sitting in the library and there was this book and it was available to me and I could check it out, and I sat in the library and the librarian gave it to me and I could smell the pages as I turned them. If it isn't as visceral as that for you, and so you understand, oh, I love to read, I love to write, ask your higher self, what is it you need to understand today about this image, this memory of your childhood? Something within you knows. And if you get the answer, write it down in your brain or take a mental photo snapshot of it and tuck that into your heart right now. Pretend, if you have a pretend picture of it or you've written it down on a Post-it note in your brain, fold it and place it in your heart. And even if you feel so desirable because it helps to bring in all the kinesthetic activity, put your hands over your heart. Put that memory of it over your heart, to hold it there. And take a breath in, breathe it in, the joy, the ease, the fun, the passion. Although you may not have called it passion as a child. You just know that you could spend hours doing that and the world would be right. Breathe that feeling in, and then when you exhale, let that feeling, that answer, that information move into the upper regions of your brain to make the mental note of what it was. And stay with me in the stillness for a moment, eyes still closed, and know that the activity that we shared, even if you got a strong image or not, the collective intention of what we did together to reveal that which brings us joy and passion and purpose, our calling, took place. And it's now placed within the heart and the mind and the soul and may be revealed unto you later on. So breathe that in for just another moment in the stillness. And then breathe and allow yourself to gently come back to the room. Feel yourself back in the chair, the room, your body with each other. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the dust jacket of the book Callings. How do we know if we're following our true callings? How do we sharpen our senses to cut through the distractions of everyday reality and hear the calls that are beckoning us? This book is a passionate look at the search for authenticity in a style that is poetic, exuberant, and keenly insightful. Greg Lavoie breathes contemporary life into ancient topics of callings. He presents an illuminating and ultimately practical inquiry into how we listen and respond to our calls. Well, what we just did is exactly that. And you can continue to do that, either by reading the book and following some of the exercises, either by what we did today and recreating it in your own meditation, contemplation time at home, getting a journal. Some of you, it's important to write. We were talking in the magazine circle about the Feldenkrais. You said when you took that training, Crystal, you weren't allowed to write notes while you were at the classes. Well, I went cold when I heard that. Because for me, the kinesthetic thing is I have to write. I hear it and I write, and then I absorb it. Most 90% of the time, I never go back to my notes. But there's something about that connection. So maybe for you, once you identify if you're visual or auditory or kinesthetic, you need the touch, you find something that helps you to learn, helps you to tap into what you need to know, or how to do this work to find that calling. Because that's what it's about. How many of you were able to tap into something with a meditation? Yay, 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 yay. And did it inspire you or bring your awareness to an attention idea of current time? So that you might be able to take what it is that you tapped into as a child, and you can do this over and over again. You're not stuck with one day. You know, you went to the one image of making cookies with your grandma, and oh, well, that's it, but I'm not a baker today. You can do this again and again. In fact, I encourage it because it will bring together pieces of a mosaic or a puzzle, if you will, of the picture of your life and your calling. Because something about what it was that you did as a child that was so effortless that, as Carl Jung said, it made the hours pass like minutes. That's what you need to bring into your life today. I jokingly last week talked about, chances are, I'm not going to be a ballerina now. I know I'm a religious scientist. I believe anything is possible. But the reality is I might not be a ballerina. But there are things that I can still do that bring me that joy. So if you got one of those ones where you go, oh, I can't do that. I'm too old for that now. Or I don't live where, whatever those excuses, because they're going to come in. They're going to come in. The committee's going to come in and go, you want to do what? Do you know how old you are? Do you really think you're going to write another book that somebody hasn't already written? You know, the voices will come. You can smile at them. Let the voices go. And return to that voice that is your calling to know what it is you are meant to do with your life, where it is now, today, and beyond. That's what this whole month is about. That's the perfect pie. That's what we get to do. And then otherwise it is beware of the Ides of March or courting disaster, because we're not listening to our heart, our soul, and the still small voice of God that calls to each of us individually and then plays the song universally, collectively, in harmony. So that's going to be kind of as much of the lessons we're going to do, because that's deep stuff. So I have a little more Irish stuff for you. Now, most of you know, besides all the green and all that, you know that the Irish are great at prayers and blessings and limericks, but we won't go into those today. The most famous one, may the road rise to meet you, may the wind be always at your back, may the sun shine warm on your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. Another one. These are blessings you can use all week. You can impress your friends. May you live as long as you want and never want as long as you live. See? They're positive religious scientists in Ireland. This is, may the saddest day of your future be no worse than the happiest day of your past. I know, listen to all the, I know. That's all the lovely part of Irish. May those who love us, and those who don't love us, may God turn their hearts, and if he doesn't turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles so we know them by their limping. Yeah, that's the other side of being Irish. You know, that little spunky side, those lucky charms. If you cross that leprechaun with the pot of gold in the wrong. Oh, by the way, here's from my Connemara marble bracelet. I know, just share. So, this week, the Irish, the Irish, I say that with a capital letters and big modulating font, calls to me. That's part of my passion, my calling. I'm listening to that. I'm letting myself go back to, as I was preparing for this and dubbed the Riverdance song, listening to the things about those Irishnesses in my lifetime that were part of my joy, my passion, and where they need to come back, because they've been kind of, I wouldn't say they were gone or buried or hidden, but they were more two-dimensional. They were more, Hallmark cards and pins and shamrocks and green. It wasn't real for me. Last night, in preparing for this and reading the poetry and the blessings in reading Anam Cara again and listening to the music, I was able to tap into that. So that works for me. Obviously, that isn't for everybody, but I know that each of you have something like that. Something that when you even say the word, you see something, you relate to it, your heart expands, you viscerally feel it's fourth and fifth dimensionally connected, and you feel that wholeness, you feel, which is our theme for the year, you feel that oneness. I am asking you, I am almost imploring you to please allow that this week. This month, while we continue with callings, give yourself the opportunity to find your calling in a joyous, light, easy, loving, safe manner. So I'm just going to close with one more piece from Anam Cara. It's a benacht, it's a blessing. So if you want to close your eyes, listen to the beautiful words, and then I'll take us into a closing prayer. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken you in a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the kirk of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to safely bring you home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you like an invisible cloak to mind and care for your life. Breathe that in. The blessing of the ancestors, the ages, the blessing that was gifted to you the minute you chose to return to this thing called life, this planet. Breathe that in. It's there for you. Claim it. And as you do so now, we speak a prayer or a blessing that we call in religious science a spiritual mind treatment, an affirmative prayer, where much like all of the Irish blessings, may you, it is really affirming what already is. It's not asking and beseeching. It is knowing, allowing, calling forth. So right here and right now, I call forth our awareness, our receptivity to the oneness of God. Right here, right now, I call forth that there is only one mind, capital M, one life, capital L, and that mind, that life is my life, and that is the life and the mind of God. I am one with that. I am that. And as I remember that, as I hear the call to relive that, to be that, I know that everything else on the external world starts to vibrate in response to outpicture to match. The wholeness, the oneness, the passion and the purpose, the calling, the ease, the grace, the joy, and the fun. And where there is an experience and or a belief today in me that doesn't match that, that seems contrary to that, I know that this prayer dissolves that. May this blessing of our center dissolve anything that is unlike the infinite truth of which we speak. I breathe that in. And when I know that, I declare that, and I allow that, I don't have to fill in all the lines with every little item, things that I need. I don't have to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, because the I is the I that I am. It is already capitalized. It is good. It is God. It is here. It is now. And yay. Thank you, Spirit. And so with supreme gratitude and confidence, I release this prayer, this service. I know the good is done. I claim it, I accept it, I allow it, I affirm it, and I ask that you join me as we say together, and so it is.
And so I am, and so we are.
Amen. Yes. Thank you. It's at this time that we do our offering. And we do it with